Sahba, introduce yourself and tell us what you made here.
Hi, I am Sahba, and I'm a food artist, food maker, art maker, and today we're making Turkish delights, which is, everyone loves them, I love them. They're very easy to make actually. It just needs a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of time. It's something that you make and then you can kind of eat it the next day. What you want to start with is a very strong sugar water, which is syrup, and this is 2 cups of sugar and I think 1 3/4 cups of water. I'm gonna take this sugar water to a stage that's called softball stage. It's a candy making term, which means it's about 240 Fahrenheit. So yeah, this is gonna take a minute.
Yeah. Can I ask, why did you choose Turkish delight as a thing that you're going to make today?
My grandma loves Turkish delights. I love them, but I don't really have a sweet tooth, but I think that it's something that you have to learn. It's something that I have so many good memories of cooking with my grandma about. She would do this probably once or twice a year before Persian New Year usually, because my mom and my grandma, they would get together and they would make all of our sweets at home, which is, I guess, common, but not every family does it. Most families just go and buy their sweets. My grandma was still is very dedicated to making her own sweets. So for about 2 to 3 months before Persian New Year, we would start the candy making, the sweet making, the bread making, the nut toasting, all of it.
Non-stop.
So what's the significance of sweets for Persian?
Because you have so many guests coming and you want to present this array and variety of sweets to them. Usually, it's like a traditional thing that if you go buy Persian sweets for New Year, you'll see so many different types of little tiny sweets. Shortbread cookies and with rice flour, actually, they make that. So it's gluten-free shortbread. There is these meringue cookies that have walnuts in them. Turkish delight is a big one. Baklava is a big one. There's a version of Turkish delight that's more Iranian. That's called maskati. My family is more closer to the Turkish area, so we actually made this instead of the other one. But
I was asking because it's similar for Chinese New Year.
Yeah,
Really?
I was gonna say, totally.
We also have those additional sweets to leave a sweet, note in your mouth.
exactly.
Yeah, there's always a little symbolism to each dish. So there's an auspicious or prosperous kind of element to what each dish is supposed to be symbolic of.
Fun fact about making sugar syrup: stop stirring when it's fully dissolved, because then you get some sugar crystals around the edges. As you agitate the sugar, it likes to crystallize. And also at this stage, this is kind of personal, you don't have to do it. I like to add a little bit of lemon juice. This is 2 cups of sugar. This lemon juice is not making it sour, and you cannot taste it at the end. It's just to balance the flavor. While this goes, I'm just going to slowly start building the next phase, which is, I have here 3/4 cups of cornstarch. Any starch actually works. They teach us in culinary school, starches gelatinize. And that's what it's gonna do. It's gluten-free dessert. Also, I'm taking some to my gluten-free friend later. And this is 1.5 cups of water. I'm just gonna add to this. Another thing that we're gonna add here is 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now, the effect that the cream of tartar will have is purely to just not get this so gloopy. It helps it to stay kind of stirrable. And then you can also add your rose water at this stage or a little bit later. I'm gonna add it here. This is kind of to taste. I am, despite the popular belief that all Iranians love rose water, I'm in a neutral state to it now. I've built myself up to here. I used to hate it, but now I'm like, I love it where it belongs, and if it doesn't belong, we don't love it. But I'm gonna just go and like give this like a good 1.5 tablespoons to start, and then if we're like, this could be more rose watery, we can add a little bit more.
Cool.
So this is ready. This has reached 245. I'm just gonna cool it down slowly here. While that cools down, we're gonna get this up on the stove and start stirring it. Now, all of the starches here are stuck in the bottom. It's really hard, but they're very slowly are going to dissolve into the water and become gloopy.
You describe yourself as a food artist. What does that mean to you?
I had so many questions about how do people become artists even. I thought that it was like a Nepo baby thing. I thought that if your parents were artists, you could become an artist because they would tell you the secrets. But I was looking for that secret. I was like, my parents aren't artists, but I'm gonna be an artist. I'm gonna find the way. And in the pandemic, I had some time on my hand. I started making some art and quickly realized all of my art was about food. Like it just took over my entire thing. I was making these installations that had food, but then eventually, after a little while, I realized that, I have been making this like art thing completely about food, and I got inspired by a bunch of food artists that are working in like New York, working in London, and their practice is purely about food. And I decided to pursue it more, and I don't know if you ever feel like you need some kind of validation that what you're doing is correct, especially with food, because you're like, my friends must be lying to me that my food is good. So I went to culinary school. I was like, I need a degree that says I'm good at this. So I did that. I'm gonna start adding a little bit of syrup at a time, and stirring that in. And once that disappears and it's fully dissolved in this, we'll add a little bit more.
Like what I want to know is like how historically, how do we discover, okay, we put these ingredients together and somehow it just
I think about that every day, every single second.
How do we...
Do you want to hear my guess about this one?
Tell me.
It's because where do we get starches? From grains most of the time. And well, everyone knows when you like cook rice, it becomes sticky and like it like plumps up and it gelatinizes really. And when you get what is starch is any grain is made of this like fibrous thing. But when you grind it down, for example, you make like wheat flour, normal flour. If it's whole wheat flour, it has all of those fibrous parts, but it also has this like white starchy thing, which is starch, like that's wheat starch. And it has the same qualities as wheat, but it just doesn't have that fibrous thing. So it's just like, the essence of flour is starch.
Right, the fibrous thing, it's like, is that the husk?
Yeah, the husk, the bran. All of these like are words to describe different grains, fibrous parts. So now that has dissolved, I'm adding a little bit more sugar again. What they found out was that this starch on its own without the fiber is also tasty, and it's like such a great canvas to add any kind of flavor to it. You can add sweet, you can add like congee is basically like rice that you've cooked until all of the starches have gelatinized, and then you make it savory usually, right? One thing that this is very personal, you don't have to add food coloring to this, but a few drops of red and the rose flavored, it's gonna make it look really cute. I'm just gonna add 2 because this is quite strong. Yeah, any color, any, depending on what you're like flavoring your Turkish delight with. Like I know a lot of people like coconut flavored Turkish delight, and so they add like white food coloring, which turns it from like this gloopy kind of thing to like a whiter, milkier. With sugar, you want to let it cool down first, and then after it's cooled down overnight or a few hours, you cut it and then you roll it in powdered sugar. But we are using rose petals, which is a very common way to do it in Turkey. This is powdered rose. It's, yeah, you can kind of smell it. It's a very like Iranian smell of rose. It's not exactly like this, which is bought from Chinatown, but this I believe has traveled from Iran. I think my grandmother dried this. Okay, and we just let this gloop over.
Cool.
Yeah.
The thickness of this depends on the size of your pan, or if you want it to be like thinner, you can like spread it out on a bigger container or vessel. And then you can also top it with some more roses like these. I really like kind of pulling these off the stem. And so this is like a bigger petal size, right? Because it's not ground, it's like I'm just kind of crumpling it up.
Yeah, it's such a nice color.
There's like a type of rose called the Persian rose, which is like this very floral, small flower buds. But yeah, we use them in everything, really. Most Persian desserts will have rose water or rose itself.
But you're sort of neutral about roses.
No, not about roses. Okay. I'll tell you the story here is that in Iran, roses are really cheap. And so is rose water. So any scent that you don't want, you just put some rose water in it to fix that scent. Especially feet. So like in like a room that might stink of feet, they'll put rose water. And so to me, for the longest time, it was like rose water just smells like feet, but it's not that. It's like it's the association.
It's the association. Okay.
But now I've lived far away from Iran long enough to be able to distinguish. No, rose water on its own doesn't just smell like feet.
Oh my God, that's too
so
funny.
funny.
It's
That's
terrible, but it's like the privilege of having too much roses.
Versus here, it's such a commodity, right?
I know.
And
here, put it on your face, like.
I think I want to know how you got into food, actually. Like, what was the first, if there was a moment growing up in your home, that you as an adult now, you're like, oh, that was the moment that sparked this for you,
Yeah, I think growing up is actually, I took it for granted quite a bit. And being such a know-it-all child, I was like, these women are wasting their time in the kitchen. They should be out there working and like being more independent. What? I don't want to be associated with food. But in reality, I lived in this like household that was obsessed with food, and also in this, so luckily, in this environment that was incredibly seasonal, and with grandparents and parents who were so knowledgeable about food and how to preserve it seasonally. So this like immense amount of knowledge that my grandma specifically had, and with her sheer matriarchal willpower, put all of us through it. And then, I think I was 18 when I moved out, and I was making some food at my apartment in Tehran, and I was like, I could be good at this. People like eating food. This can be a way I can make better friends. I can get people to eat my food. But my food was terrible. I remember microwaving a lasagna that I had made. I cooked a whole lasagna in a plastic Tupperware in the microwave. The Tupperware was melting. You couldn't know. You did.
Oh no.
Where cheese ended and Tupperware started, it was impossible to tell. So that's where I started. That was the baby steps. But especially after moving to Canada, there was this. I think, there was this moment that I was like really interested in it. And then my mom, bless her, she was a sociology teacher all of my life. She retired in Iran and came here and went to culinary school.
She went to culinary school.
Yeah, first.
Okay.
Which is something that I had never even thought about. I didn't even have a conversation with my mom about it until she went. She was like, yeah, it's my first day of school tomorrow. And I was like, what? And I was really unhappy because I was in a communications degree and I felt like so out of place. I felt like this is not me. And I remember thinking, I should have just done that.
Yeah.
Why didn't she tell me? We could have done it together.
Maybe can you tell us about the performance piece? Because we're going to include this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about it.
I was doing an artist residency at CAG 2 summers ago, and I remember showing up there and just not knowing what I was gonna do. I was just like open to possibilities. I was like, it will come to me. I'm gonna sit here for a month. It will come to me. And by the end of the month, although I had been there every single day, all I had was I had like put this large craft paper on the wall and I had written on it the name of every herb I love, and that there's a Persian song that has sexual undertones, but it's very cool song, but it's about this herb seller. So the song kind of is a back and forth between this woman buying herbs from this guy, and she's like, do you have this herb? And he's like, yeah, I do. And like it kind of becomes this like flirty situation. And I just imagined the gender reverse on this, and I was like, what if it was the woman who was selling herbs? And I love wheelbarrows, I love performance, and at the end of that month I was like, we're gonna do a wheelbarrow herb performance where I'm the one selling the herbs and I'm gonna be singing this song, and that ended up happening. That was the first piece of that performance, and I believe in the wheelbarrow as this completely element, like the fundamental mobile thing, you know. You have this, I love personally really love street food, and the customization of carts that go with this as this like element of street food. It's just so amazing what people come up with. So the wheelbarrow came in at that performance and never left really my mind or my studio space. And when it came to making food and selling food on the street, I have always thought that Vancouver has such a negative idea towards street food that's not coming out of a food truck. And in that sense, it's very exclusionary to immigrants and people who don't have the resources to go get a permit, to go buy a food truck. You know, all of these things take money, take time, take English knowledge. And this performance of selling food on a wheelbarrow is kind of a commentary on all of these things, because like selling street food is an economic equalizer, right? People who can't have access to anything else, any other means of making money, but you still have this like ancestral knowledge of making food, you can offer that, you know? And that's not something that you see here, and I really want more of that. And every time I do see it, I'm like kind of like a moth to the flame. I go follow these people. There's that guy selling like a specific soba noodles. Have you guys heard about this? In East Van, close to Nanaimo station. Makes authentic soba noodles out of a Japanese cultural house, and he has this cart he's customized. It's beautiful. Like, I know every single person in Vancouver doing this kind of weird stuff. I've talked to the hot dog guy on Main Street next to the Safeway.
That's right, in front,
He has so much knowledge about this. Like, he is...
And also considering the fact that up until, what was it, like 10 years ago,
I know,
Vancouver only had hot dog stands. You weren't even allowed to have anything other than hot dogs.
I remember when Jaffa Dogs came, actually. That was sort of like this, like, oh, there's a...
The hot dog can be different.
It can be different, But, you know, I love the wheelbarrow, too, because there's just... I think all of what you said is, like, super apt in this kind of commentary, but there's the subversion to it, too. So it just kind of, like... it tips the kind of elitist, high art culinary world on its head a little bit, where there's like, you know, certain like French cuisine is sort of the considered the like top tier foundation of like culinary knowledge, right? But when you look at the complexities that is offered in other culinary, a lot of like people colors call like cuisines has such complex flavors and steps, and it's just very different.
Exactly. Right?
And the idea that you can like it's
Wheel
just
it
the
in.
wheelbarrow too is just like, oh, here's something that you associate with like, you know, the transition,
Landscaping.
but the like landscaping, cement or soil, but all of those things are what is building.
I mean, okay, now we're gonna get very nerdy, but I even just love that metaphor of landscaping.
Yeah.
Right? And that using that as an intervention,
Nice.
like a food sharing metaphor. It's really cool.
No, so much. And also, there's something about the wheelbarrow that I really love, and it's this. We're gonna get really deep into it, but it's a single wheel cart. Right? Like, because a cart that you can push like this should have at least 3 wheels. But with the wheelbarrow, you can't move it and operate it at the same time. Yeah, I'm like, as I was doing yesterday, going through Gastown, the cobblestone is difficult, first of all. But I would have to like put it down every time that I wanted to do something on it. But often I see, especially like I've been researching a lot of Turkish street food, you see these carts that like he is like what is it? Bicycle cart that this guy is like actually pedaling and cooking on at the same time. Mind blowing.
Wow.
But it's kind of brings it again to the core of what it means to have, you know, mobile food, right? This is like the bare minimum is a wheelbarrow. You just have like 1 wheel and 2 handles and a bucket. That's it. My dream is to make my own wheelbarrow, but we'll see.